Dan, we obviously, readers of Yahoo would know you covered that trial extensively and, really dug in on the entire Hernandez story. Can you tell us a little bit about how the documentary came about? I'm sure it was long and complicated, but probably pretty interesting.
It was a long process. During the first trial, so I covered a little of those Gators teams that Aaron is on. And I do remember talking to Aaron at the national championship when he was I don't know which one, when he was a factor. And then when he was at the Patriots, I talked to him a few times in the locker room, but that was just, scrums and talking football. But then once the story broke, which Pete Thamel, by the way, was part of the original breaking news. Greg Bedard and Pete Thamel at Sports Illustrated then reported first to say police were looking for Aaron Hernandez was a suspect or a person of interest. What was that?
We were very careful about it because,
that's a big bite of the apple to report that one, man.
We said police spoke to him in connection with the murder case. And we made it very clear that, there was no, he was not an immediate suspect, which he wasn't in the first couple days as everything unfolded. That obviously quickly changed as more information
good scoop
as more
right
information came. But yes, that was an interesting day.
He wasn't originally, and same with the double homicide. If you haven't seen this or don't know the story, I don't know what to tell you, but we're going to spoil it, I guess. It's a spoiler. It's because everyone's like, there's no way Aaron Hernandez would be execution style murdering people. It was so. We have a prosecutor from Boston in there who worked the case, and it's just every time evidence would point to Aaron Hernandez, originally in the double homicide in Boston, just be like, it can't be. Whatever. Can't possibly. They're watching footage of the victims that are in this club, and they're like, Aaron Hernandez is there. That's kind of interesting. And then he leaves. And again, why would an NFL player in the middle of a $40 million contract who just months before caught a Super Bowl touchdown be involved in this? So anyway, during the first trial, Kevin Armstrong was covering all of it from the Daily News. And I talked about no matter how hard we try or how much we put out on a daily basis, it's just so much material here. This story is so crazy. And I think if you watch the docuseries, it's and Netflix told me to use the term docuseries. That's the proper term. I learned some things in this.
There you go.
I got to use the parlance.
Yep.
Was the jailhouse tapes. We have the phone calls of Aaron talking to his mom and his fiance and his friends. I think what's fascinating is that each conversation he has a different voice.
Really?
This guy is truly the right, Pete?
Totally.
He is different with each guy, each person. There's vicious fights. They're yelling at each other. There's unbelievably. I always find the part where Shayana Jenkins, his fiance, he calls, is like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing today?" And she's like, "I just had the house torn up, dealing with another search warrant from you." And they come in, they just rip everything out, looking for, they're looking for a gun. They're looking for a murder weapon. And he's like, "Yeah, I heard about that, but why are you copping me attitude?" It's like,
oh my god,
right? That's
wow, yeah.
I don't know, Aaron. Why would she be a little upset with you at this moment?
I thought the phone call, Dan, not to cut you off, that was most interesting was the one with his agent. When they, they were joking, I think, but walk me through that, because that was new to me. I live in Boston, so I've obviously followed this case very closely. Read all the stuff that the Boston Globe has done on it, tracking it, and to me, that was I almost fell off my couch last night.
Yeah, they're talking. They were joking clearly, but he's asking his agent, "Can you get me a?" The agent's like, "I can't get you a Nike deal. They won't put the swoosh on the prison jumpsuit." And he goes, "Can you get me a Smith & Wesson deal?" And
oh my gosh.
To me, the transformative part of how it evolved into a docu-series is Aaron's voice from those prison tapes. And I'd be curious, as a reporter who, getting things on Freedom of Information requests, people are like, "Oh, you can just get it on Freedom." It's like it's some simple process. It's like pushing a button and they appear. What was that like, Dan, getting those? And how do you feel like his voice, because all of a sudden now his own voice is narrating his story, which is haunting. How did you feel like that changed the tenor of the project?
Yeah, long process, and there's still other calls that are out there that haven't been granted, because he was in a number of jails. But getting his voice in there was, I think, very important for two reasons. One, you're gonna have 3 hours about a guy, and you basically have nothing. We barely have him saying anything. Obviously, there's a reason for that. He's passed away, but you want to hear from him. And then the idea that you get these jailhouse calls where it's not just an interview, it's raw, it is unfiltered. You're not going to be able to call him up. You're not going to, even if he sat down and did an interview, you're not going to be like, so describe the, fighting with your mother about this.
Yeah.
He's not going to talk about that.
Right.
So you're not going to get all the different, the raw stuff. So I thought that was pretty good. And people go, why did Aaron Hernandez turn out? And I just think it's like a perfect cocktail of just could have been anything. Like, it could be everything, could be anything, could be, abusive childhood, struggling with who he was, and the death of his father, and going so far away to school, and CTE, and just, being near New England, being near Bristol, meeting Alexander Bradley, all the different things.
Drug use.
Mm-hmm. But and so you can be like, hey, I wish if he didn't have an abusive childhood, maybe that would be, well, of course, that would have been better, but that's not like a singular decision, right? And I just feel like if he had gone to University of Connecticut and played with his brother, and his father really believed like that, this kid's so good, that's a good enough platform, you're going to make the NFL. And if anything, he probably would have drafted higher because he wouldn't have gotten in so much trouble. Yeah. That he might not have gotten in so much trouble at Florida that he goes to the 4th round. But instead, he goes to Florida, and it's just like, we're going to win, and he's so far from home. He's got to prove himself. It's just a different ball game. And, Urban Meyer, that program, no matter what Urban says, was operating at full speed, let's just say. Why would someone with so much do all this? It doesn't, the whole thing, none of it makes sense. This is like, execution style murders and drive-by shootings and repeated stuff. And then is he covering everything up to try to, just the role of it is so crazy that it doesn't just seem like, this isn't just, he snapped or something bad happened while there's a fist fight, or, and again, I'm not justifying any of those others. It's just, this is just different. So I think I don't know why. And I don't think anybody ever would. No one, the people who knew him best were stunned when he committed suicide. It's just so much stuff that's just out there.